Wow, we have a poorly Matrix 12 on the bench today, and when I turn it on you can hear it's got a stuck note. Oh, has the microprocessor died? What happened? Okay, we definitely got a stuck note. Try again. Okay, so we're going to have to look at why there's a stuck note. Not sure why it turned itself off. Let's see if we can see which note. Okay, it looks like it's voice 4, stroke 10. Yeah, voice 4. There you go. So it's cycling around all 12 notes. So if we just press clear and turn it on, we can reset the confuser. Let's see if that... no. Okay, that doesn't solve the problem. She stayed on now though for a little while. Let's give it a quick clean. Now I notice there's a hinge on the back here, so the whole front panel should lift off, and we only have to do 3 screws on each side. Now with those out, we should just be able to lift this up. Oh yes, look at that. What a beauty to behold. Get a better look. So there's the power supply, early switch mode power supply, quite revolutionary at the time. Nothing looks too untoward. Caps, don't know if they're original or not. They all look quite kind of period specific, I guess. Yep, nothing shouting out at me on the power supply. Big old cap there. And sometimes these shunt resistors can crack and cause problems, but they look okay. Yep, not too shabby. And then we have the main confuser. I hope we don't have to dig down deep into this section. It can be very time consuming. There's the backup battery. And if you can see, we're just starting to crystallise at the top there, so we'll swap that out whilst we're here. And this is the front panel control board. Very nice. And then we have, each voice card has its own confuser. And I don't like those wires there which are soldered to the board. But as you can see, they're clearly labelled which voice is which is handy. Yep, nothing obvious. And of course underneath there's another one, which what makes it a Matrix 12 instead of just a normal expander which has 6 voices, I guess. Incredible. So I'll just having a good look on voice 4 here, and I noticed this capacitor which seems to be dented on the top. It's not like vented out, but vented in. And if we look at that on the schematic, actually this capacitor is to do with the VCA. There's a couple of other VCA controls we might have to look at later, but a bit suspicious nonetheless. Okay, that cap came out really smoothly. Didn't damage any traces. But whilst I was here, I also noticed some rather dubious joints here, if I could focus the camera. You can almost see daylight through them. I think I might get the microscope out and go have a closer look. Yeah, so that didn't have a nice day at the factory. Neither did that one. There is a bit more solder in there. And there's also this one here, which is quite surprising this thing worked at all. Okay, let's switch it on. Oh, no hanging note. But it's still switching itself off. Let's try again. Okay. That sounds amazing. I'm just monitoring through my little gen leg here, and it really does sound pretty good. I'll have to hear it with some bass though. Yeah, it's funny, so she seems to be a bit stable now. It's a very clean sounding synth. Very nice. I just want to show you a couple of things I had to deal with. I've only just realised when I put it back together that if you can leave these three nuts in the back, because they're actually hinged from the bottom, so you can access both sides, which is really nice, and finally see the bottom side. And also there's this wire coming from the microprocessor, which comes to this pin header here, which is just soldered on, and then there's another cable soldered underneath that pin header going to the pin header down, paralleling whatever that signal is. So I had to desolder and unsolder those, but there's only a few caps. I think we should recap this power supply, see if that helps.
out the cold and then you died inside my eye. Precious jewel to your love, you went so very young. Reminded me of love and then you took me from behind. Your thoughts, they were inaccurate, your mind's an absentee. I barely got to know you, then you left me far behind. You are handsome like the devil, enchanting is your voice. You found it out the count and then you died inside my eyes. Show me you know, give me a sign.
Okay, so we've revamped this power supply now with all brand new Nichicon caps. I swapped out those radials for these Nichicons because we have the cable tie holders. It's fairly easy to do. So let's just see if she still turns on after such a major upgrade. Look at that, that's great. Okay, time will tell if the CPU crashes. Although all the voltages were measuring fine and there's no disruption in the clock signal to the CPU, so I don't think the power supply is the cause of the issue, but we shall see. So I'm just going to try and do a MIDI bulk dump, although I've agreed with the owner that we're going to take this back to factory sounds, which I think is a really good idea because I don't know if this data is going to be corrupted in the RAM at the moment. So anyway, we'll just go to the MIDI page and we go to the enables and we enable system exclusive, and now that will enable us to do a send, and we can make sure it's all patches, and I'm going to send the MIDI out into Logic and we're just going to record it onto external MIDI track. So hopefully when I press start we can see Logic's recording the bulk dump. Although, like I say, I don't think I want to use this just in case it's got any corrupted data in it. I'd much rather take it back to factory settings. But good to see that it's all working. Takes a little while for all 99 patches. There we go. So I've stored a patch with RNA as the title. So theoretically now when we send this back into the machine, it should overwrite that back to 2001, I think it was called. And the flickering obviously you don't see in real life. That's just an artifact from my 60 frames per second filming here. And almost got to the end. And yep, the patch has gone back, so that's great. We can do bulk dumps. So let's just change this battery next. Okay, let's see what happens now. I'm just going to do a reset of the microprocessor. And patch 1 says Oberheim. All the tuning's gone. Oh, and the power's gone off again. So we still have that fault. Yeah, let's just clear the memory again. Okay, and we might as well just do a recalibration, make sure it can pass all its tunings. Here you can see in fast time, everything has passed. Okay, so if we look here, we've got gobbledygook on the rest of the patches, so I'm going to try and load a factory set back into the unit. Okay, that seemed to go well. I actually used Sex Librarian to download the one I found on the internet. But that's all looking really good. Okay, but she's still crashing now, so it's time to check out these microcontroller lines. And I can see when it crashes there that we do lose some data, so some data's on the line. So it's almost like it's not receiving something back from another CPU, because this has one CPU on the main board, and then there's a CPU on each of the voice boards. And you can see we lose a lot of data. So I think my best course of action right now is just to kind of probe all these pins and see what happens when it crashes. It's going to take a little while, but at least I know what's going on. I might be able to pinpoint where the problem is and why the micro keeps crashing. It's really annoying being so intermittent, but we shall muscle through. And I found this CPU wouldn't work when I put it into the main board, so I'm suspecting this CPU to be faulty. Okay, some time has passed since the last video, and I managed to find some fairly cheap CPUs. Forgive me if I'm wrong, I think these might have been using the Commodore 64. But anyway, I've bought a couple that I can play around with to see if I can isolate the problem. Well, that didn't really help the situation. It still kept crashing. I think we're going to have to get a bit more hands-on now, and I'm going to recap all the digital side of things just to give us a good base to work from. So I've made a note here of what changes are happening onto the pins of each of the CPUs when it goes into the crash state. So I'm hoping this might lead me down the path to figure out what is wrong with this, because it's still not happy, and I'm sure it's got something to do with a logic problem, but when the micro crashes there's nothing really to scope out. So I'm going to take a note of what logic chips are connected to the problem pins and order some and go from there. Okay, I think I got to the bottom of it once and for all. So far she's behaved absolutely perfectly. So what I did was I did a bit of a shotgun method. Don't forget, we recapped the power supply, so that's all the beautiful Nichicon caps now. We've recapped the main CPU, and I've recapped both CPU parts of the voice boards and voice 4, which is not on the top. Actually, voice 4 is on this bottom, so I've recapped voice 4 just to be on the safe side because of that hanging note. And then I started swapping out some of these logic ICs. There's some NAND gates, some OR gates and stuff. So everything was not really changing until I got to this one here, and you see it's labelled S32, but the chip that was in there was an SO8, which is an AND gate, and the S32 is an OR gate. So Christ knows how this was actually booting, but once I plugged the right chip in, it hasn't failed yet, which is incredible. If someone can explain that in the comments, that would be quite useful. But there you go, it really does help to check if the right chips are in place. But this is fantastic. Catch you next time.